For months, fans refused to accept it. They wrote letters. They flooded comment sections. They started petitions that newspapers picked up and ran with because something felt wrong and nobody could shake it. Charlie Hudson was gone. And Rex, the German shepherd who had never once left his partner's side in 7 years of chasing killers through the fog of Newfoundland, was suddenly working cases with someone else. It didn't sit right. Not with the fans, and as it turns out, not with the man who played him either. Now, after a year of silence, speculation, and a fight that almost never made it to the screen, the truth is out. Charlie Hudson is coming home. Here's what actually happened, because the real story is messier and more emotional than anything the show itself could have scripted. In September 2025, actor John Reardon posted a statement that stopped fans cold. He revealed he had been quietly battling tonsil cancer, that he had gone through treatment, and that he had been medically cleared to return to work. But instead of stepping back into Charlie's boots, he was told the show was going in a different direction. Reardon made it clear the decision to leave hadn't been his. He said he didn't leave Hudson and Rex, and that after treatment he was cleared and ready to come back. But the team decided to move forward without him. For a man who had spent 7 years building one of Canadian television's most beloved partnerships, a partnership with an actual dog who trusted him, who worked with him, who followed him into every dangerous alley and abandoned warehouse the writers could dream up, that news landed like a betrayal. And fans felt it too. Season 8 aired without him. Ratings held, sure, the mystery still got solved. Rex still did his job. But something was missing, and longtime viewers said so, loudly, week after week. Watch parties turned into vigils. Comment sections turned into campaigns. People weren't just missing a character. They were missing a relationship they had watched grow for 7 years, and they wanted it back. Then, this year, something shifted. Behind the scenes, conversations started happening again. Nobody knew exactly what was said or who reached out first, but the outcome speaks for itself. Reardon confirmed he is returning to Hudson and Rex for Season 9, and this time, it isn't a guest spot or a flashback. He said he's excited to step back into the role of Charlie as the show moves into its next chapter, and that the series has earned a passionate audience around the world that he's grateful for. Production is already underway. Cameras started rolling in St. John's, Newfoundland this past June, which means the wheels are already turning on a story fans have been begging to see for over a year. And the way the show is choosing to bring him back is not quiet. It is not a soft reset where everyone just pretends nothing happened. The official season description promises Charlie shocking everyone with his sudden return to St. John's, arriving with one final task he needs to finish before he can put what's being called the Belize nightmare behind him for good. That single phrase raises more questions than it answers. What happened in Belize? Why does Charlie need to finish something before he can move on? And why does the show need an entire unresolved storyline just to justify bringing him home? Because here's the part that should worry you if you're a fan of this show. His return isn't a celebration. It's a disruption. The season description makes clear that Charlie's comeback creates a complicated dilemma for Rex and sets off a chain reaction that ripples through the entire St. John's Police Department. Think about what that actually means. Rex spent an entire season bonding with a new partner. Dogs don't just switch loyalties because a script calls for it, and neither do people. Somebody in that department built a life around Charlie being gone. Somebody moved into his position, took his desk, maybe even took his role in Rex's daily routine. Charlie walking back through those doors isn't going to feel like a happy reunion to everyone in that building. For some of them, it's going to feel like the ground shifting under their feet. And that tension, real, uncomfortable, unresolved tension, is exactly what the new season is being built around. So here's where we are. The comeback is real. The man is back. The dog is presumably going to have some very complicated feelings about it. But the how, the why, and the cost of Charlie Hudson walking back into St. John's after everything that happened to him is still locked behind a season that hasn't aired yet. In the next part, We're breaking down exactly what the Belize nightmare might mean. Who else is confirmed to return? Who might not survive the shakeup? And when you'll actually be able to watch it for yourself. Let's talk about who else is walking back through those precinct doors. Because this isn't a one-man homecoming. And the full cast list tells its own story about just how complicated this season is going to get. Confirmed and returning alongside John Reardon and Rex Armagonian as Dr. Sarah Trong, the department's forensics lead who has been part of this show since episode 1. Kevin Hanchard as Superintendent Joseph Donovan, the steady authority figure who has run that department through every crisis the writers have thrown at it, and Justin Kelly as Jesse Mills, the tech analyst who has grown from background support into one of the emotional cores of the entire series. These three have been there since the beginning. They've watched partners come and go, they've buried colleagues, they've solved cases that should have broken them. And now they're the ones standing in the room when Charlie Hudson walks back in after everyone assumed he was gone for good. Their reactions are going to matter. This isn't just Charlie and Rex reuniting for the cameras. This is an entire found family being forced to recalibrate in real time. And family reunions after trauma are never as clean as they look in the trailer. And then there's the name that changes everything about how this season is going to feel. Luke Roberts, returning as Detective Mark Hudson. If you watched season 8, you already know who Mark is because he's the reason the show could keep going at all while Reardon was away. Mark stepped into the major crimes division. He became Rex's new handler. He built his own relationship with the dog. And he did it while sitting in a chair that everyone in that department knew used to belong to someone else. Now think about what it means that Mark isn't being written out. He isn't getting quietly reassigned or shipped off to another division the week Charlie comes back. He's staying. Which means season 9 isn't planning to solve this problem by simply erasing it. 2 men, 1 dog, 1 department, and a history that both of them are now going to have to live inside of, together, on screen, every single episode. That is not a coincidence. That is a decision by the writers to lean directly into the mess instead of running from it. And if you know anything about how procedural dramas build long-term tension, you know that's exactly where the best material comes from. Somebody is going to have to decide who Rex actually works with day to day. Somebody is going to have to decide what happens to the professional relationships Mark built over an entire season. And somebody is going to have to decide whether Charlie, after everything he went through, even still wants his old life back exactly the way it was. Because here's what most people are skimming past in the official description. And it's the detail that changes the entire shape of this season the last time viewers saw Charlie Hudson. He wasn't on leave. He wasn't recovering quietly at home. He was heading to South America chasing down his missing brother, Jack. That's not a small errand. That's not a weekend trip. A missing sibling storyline, especially one that pulls a lead character out of the country entirely, is the kind of plot device a show only uses when it needs to justify a real, lasting absence and when it eventually needs a reason big enough to justify bringing the character back changed. Whoever Charlie found or didn't find in South America, it's being folded directly into what's now being referred to as the Belize nightmare. We don't have the specifics yet, but look at the language the show itself is using to describe it. Not a mission, not a case, a nightmare. That word choice is deliberate and in procedural television. When the marketing material uses a word like that instead of something more neutral, it's usually a signal that whatever happened down there left a mark on the character that the audience is going to see play out on screen, not just hear about secondhand in a line of expository dialogue. Charlie Hudson is not walking back into St. John's the same man who left. That much seems certain. What's not certain is whether the people waiting for him are prepared for who he's become. Now layer the brother into this. Jack Hudson has been missing. That alone opens up a dozen unanswered questions that this season is almost certainly going to have to address, whether directly or through backstory the characters reference along the way. Did Charlie find him? Did he find out what happened to him and it wasn't good news? Is the one final task mentioned in the official description actually about finishing what he started with Jack, something he couldn't walk away from even after being cleared to come home? Or is it something else entirely, something that follows him back from Belize and lands right on the doorstep of the St. John's Police Department, dragging Charlie's old colleagues into a situation they never signed up for? Procedural shows love this exact structure. A character goes away, gets pulled into something personal and dangerous, and comes home only to discover the danger followed them. If that's the direction Season 9 is taking, then Charlie's homecoming isn't the end of a storyline. It's the beginning of one, and it's one that could put people he loves directly in harm's way in the very first episodes back. There's also the practical side of this that fans have been asking about nonstop. And thankfully, we finally have real numbers to work with. Season 9 has been confirmed as a 12-episode run, which is shorter than some of the show's earlier seasons that stretched past 16 or even 20 episodes. But it lines up closely with the leaner structure the show settled into more recently. A tighter episode count often means tighter storytelling, less filler, less standalone case of the week padding, more sustained focus on the actual arc the writers are building around Charlie's return. Mark's adjustment and whatever fallout comes from the department having to absorb both men at once. If you've ever watched a show stretch a big emotional reunion across too many episodes and lose momentum, you can breathe a little easier here. 12 episodes is enough room to tell a real story without dragging it out past the point where the tension still lands behind the camera. The show is staying remarkably consistent, and that consistency matters more than people give it credit for. Sherry White continues as showrunner, with the series still produced by Shaftesbury and Pope Productions in association with CityTV and Beta Film. And Reardon himself is credited as an executive producer alongside Christina Jennings, Scott Garvey, Lisa Porter, Kevin Hanchard, and Sherry Davis. Reardon having an actual producing credit on the season he's returning for is worth sitting with for a second. That's not just an actor being welcomed back into a cast. That's a person who now has a hand in shaping how his own comeback story gets told, which suggests the emotional weight fans have been hoping for isn't an accident. Someone who lived through the real version of being pushed out is now partly in charge of how the fictional version of that experience unfolds on screen. Production began filming in St. John's, Newfoundland this past June, meaning as of right now, cameras are already capturing the scenes that will answer every question we've raised so far. The wait isn't indefinite anymore. It's measured in months, not mysteries. So here's where that leaves us heading into the next part of this. We know who's coming back. We know who never left. We know the season is shorter, tighter, and being shaped in part by the very actor whose real-life exit sparked this entire firestorm. What we still don't know is the timeline for actually watching it, what the Belize nightmare really cost Charlie, and whether Rex's loyalty is about to be split in a way the show has never attempted before. That's exactly where we're headed next. Let's get into the timeline, because this is the part everyone actually wants to know. And thankfully, we finally have real dates to work with instead of guesswork. On July 15th, the show's official Instagram account confirmed that new episodes were already in production, posting a behind-the-scenes photo of Reardon back on set alongside the German Shepherd who plays Rex, with a caption that simply said, "Look who is back in Newfoundland," followed by confirmation that an all-new season of Hudson and Rex is coming this fall on CityTV, with the option to stream it on CityTV. That single post did more to calm anxious fans than any press release could have. This wasn't a rumor anymore. And it wasn't a corporate announcement written by someone in a marketing department who had never set foot on set. This was a real photo from the real location, with the real actor standing next to the real dog, and the timing lines up with everything else we've confirmed so far. Production began in June, building toward a fall launch, spanning a confirmed 12-episode run. If you're tracking this at home, that puts us on a very tight, very real countdown. Filming started mid-year, and barring any unexpected production delays, which this show has historically avoided thanks to its efficient turnaround schedule, Fans should be looking at new episodes landing sometime between September and November, consistent with the pattern the series has followed for most of its recent seasons. This isn't a show that likes to keep people waiting for years between seasons the way some prestige dramas do. It gets in, it tells its story, and it comes back reliably, which is honestly part of why the sudden uncertainty around Reardon's exit hit fans so hard in the first place. They weren't used to instability from this particular show. And that's exactly why this comeback feels so seismic. Now here's where we need to slow down and actually dig into what the Belize nightmare might mean. Because the show is being deliberately vague. And vague, in television marketing, is almost never accidental. We know Charlie left St. John's chasing his missing brother Jack, and we know that search took him to South America. We know that whatever happened down there is being referred to internally as a nightmare, not an investigation, not a rescue mission, not a reunion. A nightmare. Think about what kind of storyline actually earns that word. It's not simply he found his brother and everything worked out. Shows don't need dramatic language to describe a happy ending. The word nightmare implies something went wrong, possibly badly wrong, and that Charlie is coming home carrying weight he didn't have when he left. There are a few directions this could realistically go, based on how procedural dramas typically structure a returning lead storyline like this one. It's possible Jack was found, but not in the condition Charlie was hoping for, which would explain why Charlie needs one final task to finish before he can move on. A phrase that strongly suggests unfinished business rather than a clean resolution. It's possible Charlie got tangled up in something criminal while searching for his brother, something that now has consequences following him home, which would tie neatly into why his return sets off a chain reaction inside the department rather than simply a celebration. Or it's possible the nightmare isn't about Jack directly at all, but about what Charlie had to do or become in order to survive whatever situation he found himself in down there. Procedural leads who go dark and come back changed is one of the oldest and most reliable devices in this genre, because it lets a show explore a familiar character through a completely new lens without needing to introduce a brand new character to do it. And that brings us to Rex. Because out of everyone affected by this homecoming, Rex is the one who can't just have a conversation about it. Dogs don't process abandonment and return the way people do. And this show has never shied away from treating Rex's emotional experience as seriously as any human character's. Rex spent an entire season building trust with Mark. That bond isn't just a plot device. It's been shown on screen as something real, built case by case, moment by moment. Now Charlie, the original handler, the person Rex bonded with across 7 prior seasons, is walking back into the building. There is no version of this reunion where Rex simply switches his loyalty back like flipping a switch. The official description's use of the word dilemma is doing a lot of work here, and it's worth taking seriously. A dilemma implies choice, implies conflict, implies that Rex's behavior itself is going to become part of the emotional storyline this season, not just a background detail. Will Rex gravitate immediately back to Charlie, leaving Mark visibly hurt after everything he's built? Will Rex remain loyal to Mark out of the routine and trust they've developed, forcing Charlie to confront the possibility that he's been genuinely replaced in ways that go beyond a job title? Or will the show split the difference, using Rex's divided attention as a mirror for the tension between the two human characters, letting the dog's behavior reflect what the people around him are too proud or too hurt to say out loud? Whichever direction the writers take, this isn't a small subplot. This is being positioned as one of the emotional engines driving the entire season. And it's a genuinely clever way to dramatize a messy human conflict through a character who can't just talk his way out of it. There's also the matter of Mark himself, and what this means for a character who, by every account, did nothing wrong. Mark didn't ask Charlie to leave. He didn't create the circumstances that led to Reardon's departure. He stepped into an impossible situation, took over a role that fans initially resented him for simply existing in, and by all indications, spent a full season earning his place, earning Rex's trust, and building real relationships with Sarah, Donovan, and Jesse. Now he's staying on as a series regular even after Charlie returns, which tells us the show isn't interested in giving Mark a quiet, dignified exit. It's choosing to keep him in the room, forcing him to watch in real time as the person he replaced comes back to reclaim a life Mark had started to make his own. That's not just uncomfortable for the character. That's genuinely rich, dramatic territory. The kind of slow burn tension that can carry an entire season if the writers handle it with care. And it's the kind of storyline that risks falling completely flat if they don't. Everything we know so far suggests the show is aware of the stakes here. Reardon himself sitting in an executive producer chair for this exact season means the person most personally connected to this real-world controversy has direct creative input into how his own return, and by extension Mark's continued presence, actually gets handled on screen. That's either going to result in whatever